So it looks like we finished reading the first section of this canto, and now we're moving on to the second section, which is rather longer. In this wonderful first section, Aurobindo told us that a deathless littleness is not all we are, and that within us there are our forgotten vastnesses waiting to be discovered. And then he describes something about that greater self which lives within us by ourselves unseen, that is keeping, guarding for us our fate in depths within. And beautiful lines, he says, a treasure of honey in the combs of God, a splendor burning in a tenebrous cloak, in a cloak of shadows. It is our glory of the flame of God. We have that always with us. Our golden fountain of the world's delight, an immortality cowled in the cape of death, the shape of our unborn divinity. So that is there, and sometimes in special moments we may have glimpses, those signs of eternity appear, signals of eternity. But now he's going to speak more about the general level of consciousness on the earth today. So I'm going to read from page 49 at the break. Page 49 at the break. But all is screened, subliminal, mystical. It needs the intuitive heart, the inward turn. It needs the power of a spiritual gaze. Else, to our waking mind, small moment look, a goalless voyage seems our dubious course. Some chance has settled, or hazarded some will, or a necessity without aim or cause, unwillingly compelled to emerge and be. In this dense field, where nothing is plain or sure, our very being seems to us questionable. Our life a vague experiment, the soul a flickering light in a strange, ignorant world. The earth a brute mechanic accident, a net of death in which, by chance, we live. All we have learned appears a doubtful guess. The achievement done, a passage or a phase, whose further end is hidden from our sight. A chance happening, or a fortuitous fate. Out of the unknown, we move to the unknown. Ever surround our brief existence here, grey shadows of unanswered questionings. The dark inconscience, signless mysteries stand up unsolved behind fate's starting line. an aspiration in the night's profound, seed of a perishing body and half-lit mind, uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. Only it hears sole echo of its call, the dim reply in man's unknowing heart, and meets, not understanding why it came or for what reason is the suffering here, God's sanction to the paradox of life and the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. Along a path of eon serpentine, in the coiled blackness of her nescient course, the earth goddess toils across the sands of time. A being is in her whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see. In her unconscious orbit through the void, out of her mindless depths, she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain, a struggling joy. A thought that can conceive but hardly knows arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. A trembling gladness that is less than bliss invades from all this beauty that must die. Alarmed by the sorrow dragging at her feet, and conscious of the high things not yet won, ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. Ignorant and weary and invincible, she seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs, a breath of Godhead on her stone and mire, a faith she craves that can survive defeat, the sweetness of a love that knows not death, the radiance of a truth forever sure. A light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp, herself, and all of which she is the sign. Will you start, Martin? Yeah.
But all is clean, subliminal, mystical. It needs the intuitive power, the inward tone. It needs the power of the spiritual gaze.
Thank you. So he says everything is screened. All the things, the beautiful things that have been described in the first section, all those wonderful experiences and that greater self which lives within us, it's screened. We are not aware of it. It's subliminal. It's below the threshold of our consciousness. It's something mystical, secret. In order to become aware of it, we need the intuitive heart. The heart has to be awake and to know and feel those inner truths. There has to be an inward turn. It needs the power of a spiritual gaze, which normally we don't have. No? We are turned outwards, we're not turned inwards. We don't have that power of a spiritual gaze on a normal, everyday basis. Will you read? Would you like to read? Yes.
Else to our waking minds, small moment look. A goalless voyage seems our dubious course. Some chance is settled, or hazarded, some will, or a necessity without aim or cause, unwilling, compelled to emerge and heal.
Thank you. So if we don't have that intuitive heart and inward turn and spiritual gaze, if we've just got our waking minds, small moment look, this narrow range of seeing things that are just happening from moment to moment, we don't see the bigger picture, then we wonder why we are here and what we are doing. Our dubious course, dubious means doubtful. This life, this track we are following, what is it? Sometimes it seems to be hopeful and bright, other times it seems very dark and doubtful. Our course seems to be a voyage, a journey without a goal. We don't know where we are going. And we don't know why we are on this particular course. It's perhaps come about just by chance. Some chance has settled it. Boom, we're on this path. This is the path we have to follow. There's no particular reason. No? Or perhaps there was some kind of will behind which decided to try this path, to hazard. It means to try something out with a certain amount of risk without knowing what the result will be. Or perhaps we couldn't help it. Perhaps some necessity, some need, which doesn't have an aim, which doesn't have a cause. It's just the way things are. They have to be like that. That necessity, unwillingly, it had no reason to choose this particular course. It's unwillingly compelled our course to be like this, to emerge from somewhere we don't know where. If we begin to think about why we are here and where we have come from, it might look like this. We wouldn't know how to explain it really. Will you read?
This dense field where nothing is plain or sure, our very being seems to us questionable. Our life, vague experience, is soul, a flickering light in the strange, ignorant world. The earth, a burnt mechanic accident, a net of death in which by chance we live.
Yes. This dense field, this field of matter, where things are, we can't put our hand through the table. It's dense, it's thick, and we are thick, so we can't just pass through. This is a dense field of matter. And in this dense field, nothing is plain, we don't understand it, and nothing is sure. We can't rely on anything. Anything can happen at any time, unexpected things, because we don't understand the reasons why we are here or where we are going. Our very being seems to us questionable. Do we really exist? People ask this. What is this existence? Are we really here, or is it all an illusion? It seems questionable. There's the famous French philosopher René Descartes. He asks this question: do I really exist? And then he thought, well, I'm thinking about it, so that proves that I must exist. Our life seems like a vague experiment. When you're making an experiment, actually you're trying things out to find out some particular knowledge. But here we just try this and try that and the other. There's no really clear aim in our experiments. And if we have a soul, it seems to be like a little flickering candlelight which might blow out at any moment. Flickering, it's what a candle does in the wind. Candle flame does in the wind. The soul, a flickering light. It may give a little light, but it may be blown out at any moment. A flickering light in this strange, ignorant world where we really don't know anything for sure. The earth itself, this planet that we live on, it seems to be actually an accident. What is it doing circling around the sun? It's just happened like that. A brute mechanic accident. It's happened mechanically because of the laws of physics and the way things have happened since the Big Bang. This world of matter seems to be a kind of net in which we are caught, a net of death. Almost everything in the material world seems to us to be dead, unconscious, not living, material, And for some mysterious reason, just by chance, here we are living beings. And we can't explain how or why. Gomsun, would you read?
All we have learned appears without us. The achievement done passes all our pace, whose fatherland is hidden from our sight. But chance happening, or fortuitous fate. Out of the unknown, we move to the unknown.
Thank you. Here he's speaking about human knowledge, all we have learned, the human race. Is it really like that? Maybe it's only a guess. We can't be sure. And all the achievements of history, what are they really? A passage? It's leading to something. We don't know what it's leading to. A phase, a stage in some kind of development. But we don't know what the end of that development is. The further end of it, we can't see, we can't imagine, we can't understand. It seems likely that it would be just a chance happening. Or maybe not completely chance, maybe something like fate. It's determined, it has to be like that. But a fortuitous fate, it's like that, fixed just by chance, in a random way, without meaning. So, we don't know where we have come from, and we don't know where we are going. Out of the unknown, we move to the unknown. Janaka.
Era to round our brief existence here, great shadows of unanswered questions, the dark inconscient, signless mysteries stand up unsolved behind the fate's starting line.
Yes. So our brief existence here, our little short lifetime, is surrounded by grey, mysterious shadows, full of unanswered questions. And it's as if, well, this is the view of science, no? That this universe seems to have started at some point. They call it the singularity, but they don't know why it started or what it started from. No? So that is fate's starting line. That's, if it was a big bang or whatever it was, the beginning of our universe is where all determinisms start from. All the things that fix who and what we are and why we are. But beyond that, there's just these signless mysteries. We don't know anything about it. We can't even begin to know anything about it. These are the signless mysteries of the dark, inconscient, a state where there is no consciousness. Howard.
An aspiration in the night's profound, seed of a perishing body and a half-lit mind, uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. Only it hears sole echo of its call, the dim reply in man's unknowing heart, and meets, not understanding why it came, or for what reason is the suffering here, God's sanction to the paradox of life and the riddle of the immortal's birth in time.
Yes. So in the midst of all this darkness, in the depths of this darkness of matter, of the inconscient, we are aware of some feeling, an aspiration, a longing for things to be better, a longing for light, no? In the midst of the darkness. And Aurobindo says that that aspiration in the midst of the darkness is the seed which has formed for us this body that is perishing, that is gradually wearing out, that will dissolve one day. And it was also the seed of this mind of ours, this mind of ignorance, which has a little bit of light, but not much, a half-lit mind. But that aspiration, like a little tongue of fire, like a little flame, is always lifting, moving upwards, pointing upwards. And it's pointing upwards towards an undying light forever lost. It has the feeling that there is an eternal, permanent light somewhere, that otherwise it wouldn't exist, this little flame. There must be some light there, but it feels that it has lost that light, lost contact with that light forever. It's an aspiration, it's calling for something. But the only reply it hears, the only echo it hears to its call. You know, if you go into a cave or into a rounded, empty building and you call, your own voice will come back to you, somewhat distorted, the echo of your call. So the only echo it becomes aware of is that in the human heart there is some kind of faint reply to its aspiration. The dim reply in man's unknowing heart. Unconsciously there's a response. And that aspiration also becomes aware that God is saying yes to all this. It doesn't know why it's here. It doesn't know where it has come from, or why it came, or why there's all this suffering and pain in the world. But it seems clear that the divine, whatever power it is that we call God, has said yes to this paradox, this contradictory, puzzling mystery of life. And the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. How has it come about that this flame, this undying flame, has come about, come into existence in this world of time and space? God seems to be saying, yes, the immortal lives in this world of time. But it's a mystery. Why would it be like that? That's what the world can look like to us if we start to wonder about it, to ask about it, without having the knowledge of the soul within. And now he's going to speak about the earth itself, the consciousness of this planet that we are part of. Sarojini.
Along the path of Evan serpentine, in the cold blankness of God incessant course, in the earth goddess toiled across the sands of time.
Yes. So the earth is following a path. It's a path in time. And Aurobindo says it's a serpentine path. It winds this way and that way, like a serpent. Along a path of eons, immense stretches of time. Yugas, perhaps we can say, in Sanskrit. That course that she's following, that course of unconsciousness, of not knowing, that the earth goddess is following, is black. It's as if the blackness is also serpentine, coiled. There she has this course, this path that's fixed for her. And it's hard work for her. I don't know if you've ever tried to walk through dry sand for a long time, on the beach perhaps, beyond. We prefer to walk where the sand is made a bit firm by some water. No? But if you, for some reason, you have to walk higher up the beach and the sand is very dry and slippy, it's very exhausting to walk for some time. She's been doing it for eons. No? The earth goddess toils across the sands of time, the deserts of all past time. Devin.
A being is in her whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see.
So she feels this being within herself, no? This existence. And there's an aspiration to become aware of that existence and know what it is. And something, a word, is speaking to her heart, but she can't hear what it's saying. And she feels forced, she's compelled by a fate. There seems to be a kind of necessity, a destiny, which is compelling her to go along this path. But she can't see the form of that fate, what it means, what it implies. Joel.
In her unconscious orbit through the void, out of her mindless depths she strives to rise. A perilous life, her game, a struggling joy, a thought that can conceive but hardly knows, arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights, a trembling gladness that is less than bliss, invades from all this beauty that must die.
Yes. So the earth goddess is trying to rise out of these mindless, unconscious depths in which she finds herself. And because she's struggling, evolution happens. Because of her efforts. Because of her efforts, life has arisen here in this world of matter. But it's a perilous life, very precarious. At any moment it can be destroyed. She has gained that. And she's gained something else, a kind of joy that goes with life. But that joy is also struggling. It's not easy and simple. She's gone even further, beyond mind. A thought she's gained that. This power of thought that we conscious human beings have. We can form ideas, but we can't really know with our thought. But that thought is arising slowly in the earth consciousness, and it brings about the capacity for ideas and for speech. We can communicate, we can use words to communicate with each other. But this speech that we have, it's like sticking labels on things without really knowing what the labels mean. Our thought labels more than it lights. It doesn't really tell us the inner meaning of things. And that joy that comes, it's a trembling gladness. It's also not confident and sure. It's less than bliss. It's not that bliss that we are all aspiring for. But that trembling gladness does come to us. We do enjoy. I'm looking out at such a beautiful view now of the sunlight falling on the red earth and these fresh green leaves. It's something really beautiful. But all this beauty is going to die. You like to read? Would you like to read? No. Elena. Yes, you. Oh, sorry, I missed you. Please read.
Along by the sorrow dragging at her feet, and conscious of the high things not yet won, ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace.
Yes. So this earth goddess is a conscious being. It seems to us a brute mechanic accident. That's what he said. No? Just an accidental conglomeration of matter in vast empty space. But this earth goddess, she is conscious. And she feels all this sorrow dragging at her feet as she struggles across the sands of time. And she's conscious of all kinds of high possibilities that she hasn't yet won. There's this life, this perilous life, and this struggling joy, but she's aware that there are much, much higher achievements, high things not yet won. So she can't sleep. Her heart can't sleep. It's sleepless. And in that sleepless heart, she's carrying an urge, a pressure, an inward urge that won't allow her to take rest and to be at peace. It's always driving her forward. Now you can read.
Ignorant and weary and invisible, she seeks through the soul's warp and wearing pain, the pure perfection her merit nature needs, a breath of Godhead on her stone and mind.
Yes. So that's how the earth consciousness is at the moment. Ignorant, weary, there's this sense of exhaustion, all this efforts, centuries of efforts, eons of efforts, leading where? She's weary, but at the same time, she's invincible. She can't be defeated. So she's always seeking through this pain, this quivering pain, the struggles of the soul. She's seeking for something that she knows she needs. The pure perfection her marred nature needs. Marred means spoiled, imperfect. Our earth nature is imperfect, but it needs a pure perfection. What she's striving for or looking for is a breath of Godhead on her stone and Maya. The earth represents the material principle. So what have we got? We've got earth, sea and stone and sky, he says in one line. That's pure matter. No? There's the sea, there's the rocks, there's the sky. What she wants is a breath that gives a life, and not just this perilous life in matter, a breath of Godhead, breath of divine power and possibility to bring to life all this stone and mire. Mire is mud, dirty mud. Not nice clean mud, but really dirty mud. Kamala.
Our faith she craves that can survive defeat. The sweetness of a love that knows no death. A radiance of a truth forever sure.
Yes. So she's craving something. When you are terribly hungry or thirsty, you know that you absolutely need something. You want it so much with such an intense need, craving. The earth consciousness, the earth goddess, is craving a faith that can survive defeat, because she gets defeated so often in her strivings. No? She needs a faith that can carry her courageously through everything. She's craving the sweetness of a love that knows not death, which is not faced with death and change at every turn. She's craving for the radiance, the powerful, energizing light of a truth that is forever sure. There's no doubt about it. No, it will be always reliable and supporting, forever sure. Mila.
Light grows in her. She assumes a voice. Her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp, herself and all of which she is designed.
Yes. So with this evolution and this development of the perilous life and the thought that can conceive but hardly knows, the earth consciousness has some light growing in her. She has a voice, there's a certain amount of expression. She learns to read her state. We can observe ourselves and we can observe the state of humanity and read it in a certain way. And we can look at what we have done or what has been done. So that's a certain progress, that is a light. But the one needed truth, that radiant truth that she's craving for, that is always eluding, escaping from her grasp. She can't catch it and hold on to it. And what is that truth? It's the truth of herself and the truth of everything that she represents. And that's our problem too, because we are children of earth. No? Until we've really come in contact with our true self, the one needed truth is eluding our grasp. And because we don't know who we really are. And we don't know what we represent. Actually, in this poem, Aurobindo tells us what an amazing destiny humanity represents. But we don't know. It's all so mysterious and dubious, and we just get through life the best we can. Alice.
An inarticulate whisper drives her steps, of which she feels the force, but not the sense. A few rare intimations come as guides. Immense divining flashes cleave her brain. and sometimes in her hours of dream and muse. The truth that she has missed looks out on her, as if far off, and yet within her soul.
Yes. So there's that word, no, that is speaking to her heart, this inarticulate whisper. If somebody's inarticulate, they can't express themselves clearly. They may have something that they want to say, or it's very pressing and important, but they just can't express it clearly. Inarticulate. So there's this whisper. That's why she can't hear what it's saying. No, it's inarticulate. That's driving her steps. She feels the force of it, that powerful force, but she doesn't understand the meaning of it. But, and this is exactly what he described in the first section, there are few rare intimations come as guides. We do get hints and messages that we don't really understand, but they do come and guide us. And sometimes even they come in the form of huge flashes of intuition, immense divining flashes, cleave her brain. To cleave means to cut. Not cutting like this, but really cutting, making a big cut. Really cutting into the brain. Very powerful flashes. And sometimes, as he described earlier, in her hours of dream and muse, when the inner lamps are lit and the life's cherished guests are left outside, then the truth that she has missed, that she's been missing, does come and look out on her in a paradoxical way, as if very far away and yet within her soul. Anybody would like to ask anything? In a way, we can recognize this struggling and striving of the earth consciousness, because we are children of the earth. This inward urge is taking away from her rest and peace. So we too, we can't rest for long, we can't have peace for long, because this inarticulate whisper is always driving us onwards. And very occasionally we get these hints from deep within or from far above. Shall we stop there for today? Those who like to read can remain, and we'll go back to the break on page 49. But all is screened, subliminal, mystical. It needs the intuitive heart, the inward turn. It needs the power of a spiritual gaze. Else, to our waking mind's small moment look, a goalless voyage seems our dubious course. Some chance has settled or hazarded some will, or a necessity without aim or cause, unwillingly compelled to emerge and be. In this dense field where nothing is plain or sure, our very being seems to us questionable, our life a vague experiment, the soul a flickering light in a strange, ignorant world. The earth a brute, mechanic accident, a net of death in which by chance we live. All we have learned appears a doubtful guess, the achievement done a passage or a phase whose further end is hidden from our sight, a chance happening or a fortuitous fate. Out of the unknown we move to the unknown. Ever surround our brief existence here grey shadows of unanswered questionings. The dark, inconscient, signless mysteries stand up unsolved behind fate's starting line. An aspiration in the night's profound, seed of a perishing body and half-lit mind, uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. Only it hears, sole echo of its call, the dim reply in man's unknowing heart, and meets, not understanding why it came or for what reason is the suffering here, God's sanction to the paradox of life and the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. Along a path of eons serpentine, in the coiled blackness of her nescient course, the earth goddess toils across the sands of time. A being is in her whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see. In her unconscious orbit through the void, out of her mindless depths she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain, a struggling joy. A thought that can conceive but hardly knows arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. A trembling gladness that is less than bliss invades from all this beauty that must die. alarmed by the sorrow dragging at her feet, and conscious of the high things not yet won, ever she nurses in her sleepless breast an inward urge that takes from her rest and peace. Ignorant and weary and invincible, she seeks through the soul's war and quivering pain the pure perfection her marred nature needs, a breath of Godhead on her stone and mire, a faith she craves that can survive defeat, the sweetness of a love that knows not death, the radiance of a truth forever sure. A light grows in her, she assumes a voice, her state she learns to read, and the act she has done. But the one needed truth eludes her grasp, herself, and all of which she is the sign. An inarticulate whisper drives her steps, of which she feels the force, but not the sense. A few rare intimations come as guides. Immense divining flashes cleave her brain, and sometimes in her hours of dream and muse, the truth that she has missed looks out on her, as if far off, and yet within her soul.